Where were you in 2020 when COVID came about? And how did you get through the next year, two, three? Some would even say it's still going on. It's the Y'all Show. I'm John Raw. Good to have you back here. And taking you back a little bit on memory lane discussing COVID and the amazing and tragic things at the same time that happened, going back now 5 and 6 years. It's amazing that we went through that and that it's been that long, but it has. But I like to kind of reference things now of BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID, because it really did change a lot of things, and a lot of it not necessarily for the better. We'll discuss that, but one reason we're talking about COVID is we're learning now. We just saw these big hearings on Capitol Hill recently with Anthony Fauci being present, that people are essentially pointing the finger of scams and unnecessary regulations and waste that happened with COVID. Today, I'm not here to talk about COVID. I'm here to talk about something that was BC, before COVID, for many people across the South. But it was a very similar scare, but it didn't involve us two-legged creatures. It involved our four-legged friends, specifically deer. It was the chronic wasting disease, CWD. And I happened to live in an area of the South then, and still do, that this was a major problem. This was a major scare going back to 2018, 2019, 2020. I say that COVID is really kind of probably the reason that the CWD scare went away. That people didn't care about deer problems anymore and the chronic wasting disease in deer. They were worried about this thing called coronavirus. And what were we going to do about that? That's my very unmedical opinion. But I wanted to tell you, I vividly remember people were scared to eat deer meat. Deer hunters were very scared to go out and do their thing in the fall. And we're about to come upon the fall, where deer hunting for many of you is a way of life. But if you live in these areas of the South, specifically, I'm talking Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, I think Alabama had a problem with it, and surrounding states too. Some states still have it going on, or I've been told that it never really went away, but it's not a big a deal as what it was made out to be. And so what I want to do is kind of look at some stuff online and share with you of chronic wasting disease, CWD. I spoke to a veterinarian about this to get his thoughts on it, and he echoed kind of what I'm bringing here today, that in many ways it was not a big deal. It was kind of a scam. In fact, I was in a barber shop not long ago, and I was in an area where CWD was probably its biggest. And where else can you go to learn about things than at a barber shop? And I brought up the fact that, hey, I haven't heard anything about this CWD in a while. Have y'all heard anything about it? Oh, man, that was nothing but a scam. This county down the street here got hundreds of thousands of dollars of government money sent here to have some kind of processing plan or something of deer meat put in. I remember going to the post office in one of these states where CWD was in effect in 2019, and right beside the post office was a huge processing station. Basically, they would come in and cut off a deer's head and test the brain, I think is what they did. Kind of gross, but we keep it real here at the Y'all Show. We like to tell it like it is. So let's go to social media, and a article here from a while back from Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation says that a new study shows that chronic wasting disease may be transmitted, what does that say? Via a previously undiscovered method. All right, well, that's what that says. Also, another article just below there, have you heard about the CWD scam? That's what Shemaine Nugent says. They are unnecessarily slaughtering tens of thousands of white-tailed deer. According to what she says, And so, yeah, like it very well could have been a scam. In fact, I found this article here from the National Deer Foundation and their website, which is, what is that? National DeerAssociation.com is what that is. CWD drains deer dollars. It doesn't generate them, according to their website. And they've got a picture there of, again, they had to cut off the freaking deer's head, as you can see there in that picture there. But a lot of this was going on pre-COVID, as I said. But look at what this article, again, at this DeerAssociation.com website points out about some of the waste that's going on in our southern states. Specifically, Maryland spent, as it says there, $64,000 per year to sample some of these deer. Louisiana spent over $240,000, and that's probably going up on chronic wasting disease, CWD. North Carolina averaging over $200,000 a year. And look at all those staff hours, over 4,000 staff hours specifically for the fiscal years of 2018 to 2020. But the state confirmed its first sub-CWD case years later. So they spent all that money and time and didn't even have a CWD case in North Carolina. Georgia, according to this website, with close to $300,000 per year on surveillance for CWD. I mean, like I said, look at Texas. Spent nearly $2.1 million in fiscal year 2020 working on CWD and the scare around it. You know, hunters, like this picture here shows, had to come in and do all this paperwork. It, in a lot of ways, just kind of scared people off. I mean, look at Missouri there with over, what is that, $3.5 million in 2021 alone on CWD efforts in the Show Me State. Big time money being spent. And again, this veterinarian told me, you can take it however you want, that it really wasn't a big deal. The scare was that the CWD affects the deer brain, and then that can end up causing problems for humans. So going back to this Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation here, according to their post here on X, that despite random media reports, there have been no wildlife to human transmissions of CWD. That's probably out west. But I don't think I've heard anything about it. Have y'all heard anything about wildlife to human transmissions of CWD? I mean, has somebody died? Has somebody become ultra sick and maybe lost their mind because of CWD? I mean, I've had a family member who nearly died, and I think it did lead partially to their death 2 years later from eating oysters out of season. And we know that seafood can kill you. I'm not so sure CWD is that, and that's why we call it here on the show about the South possibly a scam. Like I said, this one particular county that I was visiting the other day, the folks at the barbershop were telling me how that county scammed the federal government to get hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to some kind of building supposedly for CWD, but without CWD, there ain't nothing going on. So I don't know what's up with that. But old white-tailed deer, we need to get rid of them. Maybe this was a scam, if nothing else, to try to protect our deer population of the South. And I'm a non-hunter, but I'm telling you what, guys, gals that like to hunt, please do all you can to eliminate our deer population, because they scare me. They scare probably you too. I've had too many close calls with deer. Luckily, I've only hit one time, and it didn't cause anything too severe. And that was BC before COVID. That was actually I think in 1999 when that happened. Believe it or not, I know I don't look that old, but it's no shortage of deer out there, and anything we do to get rid of them, I'm all for it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. The show all about the South. And if you've got some thoughts on chronic wasting disease that you would like to share with us, maybe there's a new real legitimate scare out there as we're getting close to deer hunting season to kick off here in a few months, depending on where you live. I know that got what bow season, and then that opens up to your long guns or shotguns. Again, my experience deer hunting was not very good. Therefore, I've kind of realized I just need to stick to doing the y'all show. But again, as I said, any of you all who hunt, please take them out as much as you can. We can always bring more in, maybe without CWD, if it comes down to it. Again, thank you for tuning in the show All About the South, and happy hunting to all y'all. And don't get scammed by this whole CWD thing, if indeed it is a scam.